Thank you ever so much for joining us on this very, very grey afternoon. I appreciate your time, it's very precious, but I hope that you'll find the session useful. Okay, so let's have a look. Right, so before I go through our aims for the session, I just want to draw your attention to the QR codes that are on screen. So these are for the Twinkl Symbols for AAC app, which we will be discussing in just a little while. I've put them on screen now, so if you wanted to take a screenshot and to access the app, download the app now so that we can, I'm going to do a quick run through or a walkthrough of some of the features in the app. So if you wanted to do that along with me in real time, then you've got the QR codes on screen to download that now. But otherwise, we will make a start. So just a bit of background on myself. I am a qualified SEN teacher and SENCO with 17 years of experience of teaching within special education and primarily with the types of children and young people that would be users of symbols. So that's a little bit about me. What will we be covering in the session? Well, we'll be having a quick look at what is AAC, what are symbols and how do they help to support learning, how and why are symbols used, and then we're going to have a look at the Twinkl Symbols offering in terms of the products that we have and how you can use those to support the children and young people that you are working with. Okay, so before we do that, let's have a look at the facts. So over 1.5 million children in England alone have special educational needs, and of those, 340,000 have speech, language and communication needs. Now, obviously, speech, language and communication needs will vary from individual to individual, but these children may have one or more of the following. So they might have a learning difficulty, they might be autistic, they might have sensory processing difficulties, they may choose not to, be unable to, or find it difficult to use their voice, or they might be at a pre-verbal level of development. So many of you, if you're working in schools and in classrooms, you might have experience of the children being supported by speech and language therapists in the classroom, taking them out for therapy sessions, but ultimately they will need to be supported on a day-to-day basis to communicate and also to participate in daily life and their learning in school. So this might involve the use of alternative and augmentative communication, AAC. So why am I telling you all this? Basically because it's on all of us to meet the needs of the individuals that we have in our classrooms. And if you are parents, perhaps, you know, you want to be able to meet their needs. But in terms of the legal guidance around this, so the SEN Code of Practice states that educational settings must use best endeavours to make sure that a child with SEN gets the support they need. This means doing everything they can to meet children and young people's special educational needs. And in the Equality Act, it sets out legislation around protected characteristics and states that education settings must make reasonable adjustments, including the provision of auxiliary aids and services to ensure that disabled children and young people are not at a substantial disadvantage compared with their peers. So as I said before, this is something that comes down to everybody in the classroom, whether it be a teacher or a teaching assistant or anyone else that's in school. We have that responsibility to try and provide the best provision to meet individual need. It doesn't all just fall to a SENCO. So AAC, what does it mean? So as I've mentioned, it stands for Alternative and Augmentative Communication. There are two forms. So you have unaided AAC, and that's just about us as a person, you know, within our bodies. So it doesn't require any external equipment or tools. So this comes down to things like gestures, body language, vocalizations or words that we use, facial expressions. It might also include signing systems, whether that be Makaton, Sign Along, BSL, or any of the other signing systems that you might use. Then we move on to aided AAC, and this is where we need something in addition to just ourselves to communicate. So this might be a low-tech form in the form of pictures, photographs, objects, drawings, symbols, or written words, or it might be something much more high-tech. And there are countless different types of high-tech AAC devices, but they might include iPad apps or other apps. computers, speech generating devices, and that type of thing. So we're going to have a closer look today at symbols. So what are they? Symbols are all around us and we all use them every day. It's not just for, you know, children, young people, adults with additional needs. We all use them and they all make our life a little bit easier. They're a visual form of communicating information. They give us that information quickly and without the need for lots of text that we may or may not understand. So I've got 4 symbols on the page there, and it wouldn't really matter if I parachuted you into outer Mongolia. If you saw those signs, then you would have an inkling about what they stood for. So it kind of transcends the language barrier. Okay, so did you know that the brain processes visual images 60,000 times faster than text? So the brain is programmed to search for and more quickly draw the attention to visual images rather than text or necessarily anything that we would hear. Examples of this and how it affects us, you know, us as adults, neurotypical adults in our daily life. You know, if you've ever been given verbal instructions to a place that you've never been before, I know I'm very, very guilty of being given directions somewhere, verbal instructions, and 2 or 3 instructions in, I'm already lost and I'm already confused. Or if you're trying to put together flat pack furniture without a picture. With visuals, everything becomes a little bit easier, and it's exactly the same for our children and young people. So how do they help children to learn? Symbols are a way of visually representing single words or concepts. They're often very iconic. They often look like what they're trying to represent and remove the need to understand abstract letters and words. Because effectively, you know, if you looked at a word, they are just squiggles on a page, and they don't really look like what they're trying to represent, and they don't mean an awful lot necessarily if you don't fully understand them. So they're not restricted by language or nationality or a person's ability to read, which is where it makes it so appropriate for younger children and children with additional needs. So symbols are a really useful support as they're concrete and they're unchanging. So for example, the symbol for the word cat is going to mean cat, whether it's in on a flashcard or in a story or on a display, you know, display poster on the wall. It's concrete and it's tangible. You know, we often print off symbols, so it might be something that a child can hold in their hand, and it's unchanging. So you know, it's not something that's going to disappear necessarily. They can refer back to that. Unlike speech, which disappears once spoken, symbols are permanent, so are easy to refer back to at any point. I mean, if we think about giving a child a verbal instruction, perhaps to go and put their shoes on, then they have to attend for long enough to hear the full message. They have to take on board everything, all the sounds and the words they're hearing, just kind of try and make some kind of sense of them, you know, perhaps rearrange them in their head so that they understand them fully. Then they have to work out what that means and then what they're going to do about it. You know, do they need to respond? Do they need to carry out an action? If at any point that gets disrupted, because the speech has effectively disappeared into the ether, they have no reference point. But by having a symbol alongside perhaps a verbal instruction, they can refer back to it, which can be really, really helpful. And as part of this, symbols allow the time to process the information in the instruction being given. More specifically to the design of the symbols, they are carefully designed in sets to give them a consistent visual structure, which then reduces the interpretation demands placed on the child or young person or adult using them. So I've put an example at the bottom there. These are Twinkl Symbols. So we've got the red ring, the red circle there, that represents family. And then if you combine that with a male figure, that becomes brother. And then if you've got an older female, you've got grandma. So once they begin to learn the rules, then it takes away some of that demands around interpretation. Okay, so symbols versus illustrations. So we've discussed that visuals are a really, really great way to support understanding, but there is a key difference between pictures or illustrations and symbols. So I've got two examples on screen there. One is from one of the Twinkl original stories, the Zoo Vet, and we've got the symbol underneath. So pictures and illustrations often contain lots of detail and so can require more extensive interpretation. They might portray a whole sentence or a paragraph or even a whole event in a story, whereas symbols have a single meaning and are often generic in appearance, that they can be used in many different combinations, situations or contexts. So if we have a look at the example that I've put on screen there, so we've got a tiger. The tiger is lying down in a little bit of an awkward position, a position that a child might not have seen a tiger in before. The tiger's sitting on what looks like a table, which is not somewhere we would normally see a tiger. The tiger has a confused, perhaps pained expression on their face. They've got something very odd sticking out of their paw. Within the picture, we've also got a person that has gloves on that, you know, looks like he's a vet. And obviously you've got the background images as well. All of that requires an awful lot of interpretation. Whereas the symbol, it's purposely designed with a blank background, so that the focus is on the one key word or the one key concept that you're trying to convey, and that can be used in a range of different contexts, and the meaning behind it is not going to change. Whereas in the story, you might see the tiger on several different pages and it might have a different context to it. Okay, so we're going to have a think now about who might use symbols. Now, if you can, along the bottom of your screen, you have your emoji reactions buttons. If you have experience, and you're happy to do this, if you have experience of working with any of the types of learner that we're going to look at, if you can just perhaps click on the thumbs up or any of the emojis there, just so I get a sense of kind of what learners you're working with, would be great. Okay, so the first type of learner that we're going to look at is emergent readers, or learners that are struggling with text. So if you're working or have used symbols with that type of learner, then if you can just drop an emoji, that would be great. So why is it useful for them? So symbols can support learners at the start of their reading journey as they help to reinforce the meaning of individual words. Second category of learners might be learners with a special educational need and or a speech, language and communication need. And with those types of learners, symbols can help them to better understand the world around them in terms of our communication with them, whether that be verbal or that be you know, in a visual or written format, and also provide them with an alternative method of communication as well. And we'll go into that in a little bit more detail in just a second. And the third category of learners that you may use symbols with are learners with English as an additional or second language. And the use of symbols can help to support the learning of English and bridge the gap between different languages. So perhaps if you had, if a child knew the word for apple and you presented them with a symbol alongside that, once they begin to understand that symbol means apple, then it doesn't matter what language you present next to that, you know, they can begin to make the links between the two languages with the symbol as the commonality between them. Thank you for your input with that one. It's good to know that we've got a range of different learners that you have been supporting with symbols. Okay, so how are symbols used? Primarily, symbols are used to support language and communication for our youngsters. Symbols can be used anywhere that you would normally use text, and so can be used to teach and support the development of the user's vocabulary and their understanding of language. So it might be that you have a set of instructions that you symbolise, or it could be in labelling around the room, or it could be you know, as part of a symbolised story. You could present that alongside, or you know, if you're working with learners at an earlier stage of development where you're learning single words, you could present a toy car alongside the symbol of a car, and you would also perhaps say that word as well, so they begin to link the different representations of a word. And I will also just add at this point that we would always look to present text alongside symbols. It's not that it's replacing the words, it's in addition to the words that we have. Symbols can also be used as an alternative form of expressive language. For example, pointing to a symbol on a communication board or physically exchanging a symbol with an adult in return for their chosen item or activity. So over the next couple of slides, I have put some examples of ready-made resources that we have on site just to illustrate those further. Now, the breakfast choices communication board that we've got on screen there. So it might be that a child or young person would have that alongside them as they're having their breakfast, and they can point to individual symbols to request what they want. Or they could point to a number of symbols. So I want fruit, or I don't like yogurt. So again, building up their repertoire of how they communicate and what they can communicate in that context. Alternatively, you could have cutout symbols that are on a choice board. So a child could remove the symbol to choose I don't know, a golden time activity, for example, and they could take that to an adult or somebody to exchange it for their chosen activity. Symbols can also be used as part of other language interventions, such as colourful semantics. So obviously we've got the example on screen there where we've got the coloured text, and we've also got the coloured symbol board as well to help with the colourful semantic approach. We've also, other examples include symbolised keywords, for example, labels or flashcards. So at the top of the screen there, we've got the sensory circuit flashcards. So you could hold up a flashcard as you're giving the instruction, or, in readiness to transition to the next activity. You could use symbols within symbolised sentences, for example, instructions or stories. So on the right there, we've got the winter snowflake activity, which has got symbolised instructions to support the learner as they work their way through each step. And then at the bottom, we've got our core communication board as an example of communication boards and books. So this board in particular has our core vocabulary in terms of sentence starters, common words. We've got feelings in there, we've got questions in there, we've got ways to ask for help. So again, you could work towards a child being able to use that independently. You might supplement that with topical or seasonal vocabulary, if you're doing a particular activity, but that would be your core vocabulary board. Symbols can also be used to support transitions, and transitions can be something that many of our youngsters struggle with. So they can be used to prepare individuals for what will happen in their day, and also what to expect in a lesson or task. So on screen there, you've got the daily schedule for school. So you could put the day on there, and then you could put your sequence of activities that the child would complete. Once an activity is complete, you could either remove the symbol, you could tick it off, you could move it into a finish column. There's lots and lots of different ways that you can do it. Symbolised visual timetables enable a user to know in advance what will happen during their day. So it might be that they have something that they're really, really looking forward to at the end of the day. And it can help to pace them through their day so that they know it's coming, that it's not going to be removed, that they can work towards it. You might have visual timetables that span a lesson. So over the course of a lesson, you're going to do 5 activities, and here are the symbols that represent that, so that you have a clear finish and end point. It might be that you have a morning and an afternoon timetable. You might have a whole class timetable. You might have a more bespoke timetable that is very personalised to the needs and the activities that a specific individual will carry out during their day. Some users, however, may need further support and benefit from a portable visual prompt that can travel with them between activities, such as the now and next on the bottom of the screen, so that they have that constant visual reminder of what's happening now and where they're going to move to next. So you would put your 2 symbols onto your now and next. Once the now is completed, you would either remove it, or you would then redirect to the next activity, and you possibly move the next activity to the now and add your new next activity, if that makes sense. Apologies, that was a little bit wordy. Okay. Symbols also provide structure. Symbols can be used to provide visual structure to lessons and tasks. They can help to show a clear beginning and ending and help prepare children for what activities are going to take place in the middle. A real key point to this is about breaking tasks down into smaller, more manageable chunks. That initially a child may be supported with quite intensively, so it might be very adult-led initially. So it might be, as in the showering schedule that you've got on screen there, it might be that at each point an adult has to physically point to the symbol and give them the verbal instructions as well. Then it might be then that the adult is able to take a step back and have the visual available to them, and then just give them the odd verbal prompt should they need it. And then perhaps taking that step back towards more independence again, so having the visual available and the child being able to work through that with some independence. And having the visual there in the form of symbols means that the child can refer back to it as and when they need to during the activity. Symbols can support emotional regulation, and this can be really, really useful in lots and lots of settings. Symbols don't just have to be used by children with additional needs. They're really, really useful for all learners, and particularly around emotional regulation. I'll come back to why in just a second. So visual support such as symbols can be useful to support users in their ability to recognise and respond to emotions and sensations that they might be feeling. So the resource at the top of the screen there helps a child to document effectively how their hands might be feeling, how their breathing might be when they're feeling a particular emotion. And if we can then help them to label that as I'm feeling happy, or I'm feeling excited, or I'm feeling sad, it develops their emotional literacy. But it also can be a really nice reference point. So if they do begin to feel some of these bodily sensations, they can refer to a visual such as this and begin to recognise when they're feeling specific emotions. Symbolised prompts can also be used to direct a learner to an activity that regulates them, or give them a choice of items or activities that will help to make them feel better. So I've got the example on screen there. So when I feel too angry, I can. And then there's options there. So they can either choose from those options, or it could be a sequence of activities that they count to 10, they take a break, they do some exercise, and they squeeze a cushion, or whatever works for the young person that you're working with. Symbols can also help users to communicate and understand instructions when they are less able to in a verbal or auditory way, for example, when they're heightened or they're feeling overwhelmed. It's a physiological fact that when we're experiencing those really, really big feelings, that our ability to hear and take it in and process instructions, particularly verbal instructions, it diminishes significantly. So by perhaps, instead of saying, sit or stop, by using a visual at that point, that can help. But equally, during those moments, children and young people can find it really difficult to communicate. So by having visuals and symbols available to them, that's a potentially easier way of them communicating what they need, how they're feeling, to the adults that are supporting them. So we've talked a little bit about symbols, how they're used, why they're used, why they're helpful. So I'm going to give you a bit of a whistle-stop tour now around the Twinkl Symbols offering, and how you can use the products to make your life easier in supporting children and young people with additional needs. So Twinkl Symbols is a product that offers professionally designed and illustrated symbols-based resources and digital tools that can support children with SEND and speech, language and communication needs. Can I just have an indication from people if they were aware that there are 3 different Twinkl Symbols products? Because I have a feeling that not many people will. But yeah, there are in fact 3 different products. So I will go through each of these in turn. It's really interesting. As part of this, we are trying to broaden the awareness of the different product lines. So I'm going to go through each in turn and show you how they can be used effectively. So Twinkl Symbols resources. They're an extensive range of ready-made and ready-to-print symbolised resources linked to the curriculum and everyday situations. Twinkl Symbols web tool, and this is a web-based tool where you can create your own bespoke symbolised resources using our bank of over 2,000 symbols and 150 templates. And we've also got the Twinkl Symbols for AAC mobile app, and this is an easy-to-use AAC app that facilitates communication and access on the go. So let's have a little look at them in more detail. But first of all, let me just go through why you would use symbols, Twinkl Symbols specifically. So the 3 Twinkl Symbols products are designed to complement each other perfectly and make supporting learners across a range of activities and settings as easy as possible. We have hundreds, I think there's over 400 now, ready-made, symbolised and curriculum-linked resources, which are available to print off at the touch of a button. So this really will save you hours of time in planning and preparation, because we all know that creating these resources, well, as great as they are, it does take time. If you can't find exactly what you're looking for, then we have the web tool to create your very own bespoke resources. So you can create resources that link specifically to an individual's needs or a curriculum-based lesson using our bank of symbols. So you have access to all of the symbols there, and you can create whatever you like. If you're needing symbol support on the go, our Twinkl Symbols for AAC app is currently available for free, which I think is great, because lots of other AAC products can be quite costly. And it can be accessed across a range of devices and operating systems. So we have Apple and Android, and in terms of Apple devices, it's available on the iPhone, the iPad, and also the Apple Watch. It's quick and easy to use and provides access to symbolised communication boards and books, a voice output system, and transitional supports wherever you are. So it doesn't have to be just school-based. It can be used in the home, it can be used in the community. And it's really great because it provides that consistency of approach across different settings. And I think what's probably better than anything else, if you've already got a Twinkl membership, then you get all of these products for free, as well as all of the other fabulous Twinkl products. So there really is an awful lot of value in it, and it's really affordable, which is really important to me. Okay, so in terms of our resources, what is available? So here is just a handful of things. So we've got timetables and planners, targets and reward charts, spinners and timers, communication board and books, debrief charts, recipes and craft activities, pastoral resources, curriculum resources, step-by-step instructions for daily tasks, Word and AAC maps, voice output systems, and flashcards and lanyard cards. So there really is so much available to you that is symbol supported, which is great for our learners. So let's have a closer look. So the Twinkl Symbols resources, first of all, these are the resources that you would find on our website, just like you would find any other curriculum-based resources. But I'm very quickly going to walk you through where you would find everything on site. So here is the Twinkl symbol, the Twinkl homepage. Yours might look slightly different, but essentially the menus and everything should be the same. So I'll take you through it step by step. So at the top, you would find the send tab on the top menu, and that would drop down the menu to show you everything within our send products. At the bottom there, you've got the Twinkl Symbols resources. So if you click on that, that will take you to our homepage. So on the homepage, you can scroll down all the way to the bottom. There are hundreds and hundreds of resources there, and you can just have a browse through to see if there's anything that catches your eye. If you wanted to look for something more specifically, then you do have the menu on the left-hand side of the screen there, where it's broken down into categories. So we've got activities, adult support, communication boards and maps, curriculum support, events and topics, life skills, pastoral, schedules, and social interaction and play skills. And we are adding to these all the time. So from there, you can click on your chosen category. So perhaps, for example, if you wanted to look for something around adult support, you could click on that, and that would take you to the relevant page. Now, with some of the categories, once you click on them, it will open up into subcategories on the left hand side, but within adult support we just have what's on the screen there. So you can scroll down, as I say, and find whatever resource you like. If you perhaps were to click on this one, so the Twinkl Symbols Lanyard Visuals for Adults, that would open you up into the resource page. So you've got the image at the top to show you what it's going to look like. Underneath you've got a description about what it is. If you're not really sure how you would use it or what it might be helpful with, there is a short description underneath. And then you've got your download buttons. So I will just draw your attention to the fact that underneath the download now, the green button, you have got the more downloads. So with most of our resources, there are alternative versions. So on this one, we've got an editable version, one with the one that's written in a dyslexic font. You've got super eco, colour and black and white versions. You've got precursive versions, and there's more there. So if you click onto more downloads, you can then choose which version you want to download, because I appreciate that we all have different needs. So yeah, that is pretty much the resources in a nutshell. There is hundreds upon hundreds on the website. So I'll just take you through a few of them, just to give you a flavour for the different types of resources that we offer. We've got the core word board, which is on the top left, which I've discussed on a previous slide. We've got the now and next board, which I mentioned was useful for supporting transitions and helping to reduce anxiety around those transitions. At the bottom left, we've got the bathroom visuals. So this is just an example of kind of the poster displays that we also have on site. So you might have this up in the bathroom at school or at home, so that a child or a young person can start to work through the step-by-step instructions with working towards their own independence. We've got the winter AAC mat. We have an awful lot of AAC mats and vocabulary mats on site. Lots of them are linked to specific topics or seasonal events. So perhaps if you were doing a winter-based activity, you could print that out and you could have it alongside the activity so that a child could comment on what they could see. You know, they can make sentences. So I see ice or I see hat. They can tell you what they want. So perhaps if there's a choice of activities or choice of clothing there, they can make a request. Or they can tell you how they feel. So I feel cold, I feel warm, happy, sad, that type of thing. So we have lots and lots of them on site that are ready made for you, ready to go, just need to print them off. Alternatively, you can use the web tool, which we'll come to in just a little bit, where you can make your very own AAC mats, but they are very useful. And then just to give you some more of a flavour of the different types of resources that we have. So we've got a recipe there. So we've got pancake recipe, which is very pertinent with Pancake Day just a few weeks away. And as you can see, you've got the ingredients and equipment list. They're all symbols, and then you've got symbolised instructions to create your pancake. On the right hand side, you've got labelling body parts. So that's a cut and stick activity. So obviously that involves a little bit more participation from the learner that you're working with, but that can be linked to a PSHE activity or a science activity. Bottom left, you've got the Jack and the Beanstalk sentence building cards. So you could have resources linked to stories. And obviously you've got at the bottom there, you've got symbols to create your own sentences. So it'd just be a case of the child selecting and arranging the symbols to make their own sentence about their story. In the middle there, you've got the Who is King Charles PowerPoint, and that was put onto site around the time of the coronation. So that's just to give you an idea that the symbols resources that we have, they're not just limited to paper-based resources. We do have resources that you can share on screen as well. The problem-solving scenario cards, perhaps for slightly older learners maybe, you've got the problem there, so you've got a symbolised sentence, and then you've got the cards at the bottom, which you could work alongside a child to find the right solutions, and then they could have that as as a reference point. If ever they did miss the button, they would have steps to take so that they could resolve their problem. Okay, so that is our resources. I'm going to move on to the web tool. So the web tool is available on our website. So if you go back to the symbols landing page, if ever you get stuck, by the way, and you're not sure how to find the symbols landing page, just type in Twinkl Symbols into the search bar and you should be able to get back to this page. But to get to the web tool, you would click on the blue banner at the top of the screen, and that will take you to the symbols, the web tool landing page. Now you can go straight in and start creating now by pressing the green button at the top there. If you weren't really sure what you wanted to create, or you wanted a little bit more support around that, we do have all of the templates in place there. So if you scroll down the screen, obviously you've only got part of the screen there at the moment, but you do have all of the different types of templates that you can access through the web tool. So if you were to click on, for example, the Now and Next, that would then take you to the Now and Next page. That would give you some more information about what resources that might be appropriate for, how you might use it, and then you can go ahead and start creating now by pressing the green button. That will take you to the web tool. So this is what the web tool looks like. You can then go straight into Start Creating by pressing the button in the middle of the screen. And again, it will prompt you there as to whether you want to create your own document from scratch, or whether you wanted to use one of the templates. Now, if you wanted to use one of the templates, you just click onto the one that you want. And even within templates, you have more options. So you might have a learner that can only work with 2 symbols at a time. You might have a learner that can use up to, on there we've got a now, next, then, and a reward. So there is lots and lots of flexibility within this. So you then select the template that you want, and that will bring up the template on screen. So from there, you would click onto the symbol cell that you want to add a symbol to, and it will turn it blue. And then you would click on the symbol on the left-hand side, and that would bring up your search bar. So you can type into the top search bar whatever you want to search for, and then you will have your list of symbols underneath. As you can see on screen now, we've got the black and white versions and the colour versions, depending on how you offer symbols to your young person, and obviously your own personal preference. So you would click on the symbol that you wanted, and that would pre-populate it into the cell for you. And you can use that then to create all number of resources. On the left-hand side, there is the option to search by illustration. So all of the Twinkl illustrations, which are not, I will mention, they're not designed in the symbol style, the Twinkl symbol style. But if you wanted something a bit more bespoke, there are, I think there's hundreds of thousands of illustrations there. You can add in text, you can add in shapes and all sorts to make it totally bespoke to your user. Sorry, I will just go back a page and just draw your attention to the fact that at the top of the page there, you are able to save resources that you make, and then come back to them, amend them, or edit them, or print them off again, and you can download them directly there. Okay, so last but not least, the Twinkl Symbols for AAC app. Again, I've got the QR codes on screen there if you wanted to download and have a go as we run through it. But just to give you a little bit more information, it's an accessible and flexible communication tool. It offers the ability to create a wide range of highly personalised and bespoke resources, communication boards and books, and it is available across a range of devices. It also includes a type to talk function, so a voice output function. You have voice output buttons, spinners, timers, and simple matching games, and it's all currently available for free, which is amazing. Okay, so when you get the app, this is what your home page will look like. And again, it's quite similar in terms of being able to create your own boards and books, as in the web tool, but there are a few additional features which I'll run through now. So if you wanted to create your own resource, then you have the option to create a board or a book. So if you wanted to create a board, Then obviously, again, you've got your templates in there, very similarly to the web tool. And you have further options within that. So if you select the one that you want, and again, this time you're typing your words that you're looking to symbolize directly into the text box. And then once you've typed that in, it will pre-populate the symbols for you, as shown on the screen there. If you have a look on screen there, you can see that you can save them, you can print them, you can share them, so you can share them with other users. You can also lock the page so that inquisitive little fingers can't edit by mistake. And then if you go back to the create and create a book, so a board might just be on one specific topic or theme or an activity based, but a book is a collection of those pages. So let's have a closer look. So there are templates here. I'm going to show you the child example today. So in your communication books, you have your sentence starters on the main page. But if you have a look on the right hand side there, you've got common, home, help, morning routine, transport, school, and at the park. So if you click onto each of those, it opens up the page with that topical vocabulary in. So the idea behind this is that you would use your sentence starters, perhaps. You would click on a symbol, for example, I want, and that would move down then to the sentence bar at the bottom, which is the orange bar. And then you would click onto your topical pages to find out additional words, and you can then click, as you click on them, they are added to the sentence bar at the bottom. And even more helpful is the speak button, which is on the left hand corner. So a child could create a sentence by clicking on the symbols and then click on the speak, and it would read back their sentence for you. Okay, just to have a look at the other features on there. So we've got the symbol mode. So this is perhaps if you're just looking for specific symbols. So obviously they're all arranged by category there. So you can just click on the category that is pertinent to what you're looking for. Or if you're looking for something more bespoke, then you can create your own symbol by clicking on the My Symbols on the left-hand side of the page. Now, I haven't created any custom symbols at the moment, but if you did want to create your own symbols, you click on Create Symbol, and then you have this page here. And again, you can just type it into the text box on the left, and that will come up with the available options. But you can see there you do have the options to add in the Twinkl illustrations or import photographs from your camera library. Perhaps, you know, if you're accessing it on your phone or your iPad or something, then you can access photos from the camera roll if that's more appropriate to the young person that you're working with. The ability to import camera photos is not currently available on the web tool, so it's only on the app at the moment. We've got the type to talk function. So this one, the child, perhaps a child that is more literate perhaps, and is more independent in terms of their writing and their spelling, but perhaps finds the verbalizing of speech more difficult. They can type into the bar and then click on the green button up the bottom, and it will read it back to them, which is a nice additional feature. Our tools on there, so we've got timers, which you can edit and you can symbolize. We've got spinners on there, which again, you can edit. We've got captions, so you're matching words to pictures, and then we've got a matching pairs game as well. So these are all nice little added extras which can be useful in terms of sort of supporting learning and, you know, in terms of transitions and behaviour management. And then the last one on there is your button mode. So I've created this. This is not necessarily what it would look like for you, but I've created this as almost like a snack choice board. So I've created the symbols very easily in the way that I've just described. So perhaps if you were having snack, you could offer that to the child. They would press the button and it would read out their choice for you. And you can edit what it reads back, or you can record your own voice so that it records back a particular message. So it might be nice if you were doing a story or something and you wanted a child to join in a repeated verse or something, you could have a button so that they could join in. So that's a really nice addition too. Okay, so I mentioned that the app is currently free. We are working very, very hard behind the scenes to update the app, and we will be relaunching it in the next few weeks. So the new update, I'm giving you a sneaky peek as to what you're going to be getting from the app. I do hasten to add the update for the app will only be available on the Apple platform initially. We are hoping to also launch that on Android at some point in the future. But in terms of what it will offer, we're hoping that it's going to be a faster and smoother experience for both adults and children using the app, you know, with swipe gestures, so making it easier to use. There's going to be more symbols. So at the moment, we've currently got about 2,000 symbols on our app, but we're hoping to increase that to around 16,000, and they will be available in colour and black and white. So there will be much more in terms of content there for you. Categories, again, you've seen already that symbols are arranged in categories, but we'll also have the additional feature that you'll be able to enable or disable specific categories, which is handy perhaps for more sensitive topics and symbols. We're trying to improve the security around that, and by that I just mean that you'll be able to back up, share, save and print boards with ease. They are features that we have, but I know that there have been a few teething problems with them, but we're working towards making that a much easier experience. Our type to talk feature, which I've already just showed you, our new update will enable anything that's typed in on the type to talk to be symbolized. So if a child wanted to respond to a question perhaps and they wanted to type in so that it could be verbally shared by pressing the talk button, it can then also be printed as a PDF, so you've got a written record of their responses, which is lovely. There are new voice options, so the option to create your own voice with Apple's personal voice feature. So you would record parts of your own voice and that would very magically create your own voice, which you could use within the app, which is great. And within the Apple Watch platform, there will be a new edit feature and the ability to display custom symbols. Currently, in the Apple Watch, you can only use our symbols. All of those symbols that you create yourself, perhaps from your camera roll, you will be able to display those on your Apple Watch as well. So even more ways in which you can access this on the go. So in terms of what's next in your journey around symbols, I've put together, I've collated some resources that might be of use, and these will be shared with you both in the chat and in your reflection documents. So we've got an Introducing Twinkl Symbols how-to guide for parents and how to introduce Twinkl Symbols into your classroom. They are documents that you can download and refer to. If you don't already have a Twinkl membership, then we have a free to download symbols taster pack. So you can download that and get a real sense of the resources, what they look like, how you might be able to use them yourself. And that's all free. And we've also got our Twinkl Symbols blog. I've recently written a blog post around introducing Twinkl Symbols, so similar in content to what we've covered today, but that is another reference point, and I hope to make blog posts sort of a half-termly update. So watch this space for more blog posts and more support around that. So that is everything that I wanted to share with you this afternoon. So I just want to say thank you for listening, and good luck, and have fun with symbols, and enjoy exploring and experimenting with how you can use them with your children and young people.